Hey, everybody, you welcome to another Global Masterclass series here at BPTN. Thank you guys so much for joining us once again, and we are happy to see you. In case you didn't know, these masterclasses happen each and every Thursday. So if you want to join in on the action and join me and the rest of the BPTN community, make sure you're here on Thursdays for engaging conversations from some of the tech world's biggest names. My name is Cher Jones, and I'm a corporate trainer, keynote speaker, and the founder of Socially Active Training. And before I move on, I hopefully am the first to wish you a happy early Mother's Day for all those strong, beautiful mothers and mother figures out there in the audience today. You guys are all amazing, and you are very much appreciated for all the things you do. So right now, I'm here in Toronto. But what about you? Where are you joining us? Are you in Texas? Are you in Nigeria? Are you in Jamaica? Are you in Ottawa? Are you in Mississauga? Where are you at? Let me know in the chat right now. All right, yeah. Because our masterclass folks, we are across the world. I see Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Whitby, North York. All right, so a lot of local folks tonight. St. Vincent, that's what I'm talking about, right? Toronto. So yes, keep joining. Drop your location at Winnipeg, Ottawa. So we got people all over, and that's what happens each and every week. Newfoundland and Labrador, I love it. I haven't seen anybody from Newfoundland in the chat for a while, so very welcome to you. And yes, keep it coming in the chat because that's where the action is at. And if you are a BPTN OG, then you might have noticed that the registration was just a little different this time. When you registered, you became an Obsidy member. And if you are brand new to BPTN and Obsidy, well, welcome. Obsidy is our global platform, and it was made for Black professionals in technology to connect all day, every day. And it's a place for you to learn, grow, and build your careers together while you connect with our partners and create new opportunities for yourself. So come on over to obsidy.com right now. And when you're logged in, I want you to do me a favor. I'm trying to build my network here. So I want you to search Cher Jones and click connect, and let's network together. And if you love the vibe that we've got going on over here, then you definitely need to stay connected. And of course, here's what I don't want you to do. I do not want you to be selfish. I want you to get your friends to sign up too. And speaking of friends, do you want to get access to LinkedIn Learning? That is one of the most awesome places. Often we should be going there to skill up your knowledge in technology, business, and beyond. And if you invite 5 friends, just 5, that's all I'm asking, you will get a free access pass to LinkedIn Learning for 1 year. Talk about awesome. So the competition, if you want to call it that, all you need is 5 friends over and invite them over to obsidy.com to be members, and you'll get your free access pass to LinkedIn Learning for 1 year. So do not delay. Start inviting your friends today. Yeah, I got bars. Okay, so moving on to what we're going to be talking about tonight. Whether you are working where you were originally from or you've immigrated to a new country, our Black experience represents a unique journey that we as professionals can leverage and use to advance into leadership roles. You can also, in this masterclass tonight, our experts, okay? So based off of their experience, they're going to give you tips on how to leverage your experience, curate your brand, and showcase your valuable insight when vying for senior roles, because we want you to continue to level up. And they're also going to share their tips on navigating the conscious and unconscious bias that Black talent typically faces on the rise to the top. So this is a powerful conversation. You're going to hear stuff that is real talk, real action. And that's what I want you to do today, is take notes so that you are putting what you learn in action. But before we move on, I do want to thank our partner, PwC Canada, for bringing this exceptional, awesome, important discussion over to BPTN. So thank you so much, PwC. This is a conversation that we must have tonight. So now I'm curious. I know where you are right now because you let me know in the chat. But I'm curious, are you originally from North America or have you immigrated over to North America? So yeah, it's a very North American perspective question, but I still want to know where you at. So if you were born in North America, say North America or put NA in the chat. And if you've immigrated to North America, I just want you to put an I in the chat. So drop it in right now because I'm curious. We have both perspectives tonight. So let me know. Started from Zimbabwe, now I'm here. All right. So you got the Drake going in there and both. That is awesome. See, look at the eyes. Look at how many people have immigrated over for new opportunities. I see some North Americas too. Oh, wow. See, this is what I'm talking about. Guys, I want to make sure that we are connecting and growing our networks with people from around the world because our experience matters and collectively we bring a lot of our game together. So I see a lot of people have immigrated on the conversation tonight. So keep that going in the chat. And I would like you now that we're seeing half everybody's I see more people have actually immigrated than from Congo. I see, oh my gosh, I love it. So guys, I see that we have a lot of different experience in there, but we all have a unique Black experience. So I would like you to describe your Black uniqueness in one word. Drop your answers in the chat. I'll start with excellence. That's it. We bring excellence to the table. We bring experience, so that might be another word. We bring awesomeness to the table. Give me your word in the chat. Describe Black uniqueness, and excellence is. It works for me. What about you guys? Give me a word in the chat right now. And that's what I want to feel. I want to know how you're feeling tonight. Vibrant, open mind, determination, perseverance. That is right. I love it. Guys, keep it coming in the chat because this excited, persistence, that's what we need to get the top. Magic. Magic. That in a word right there. Love. Unapologetic. That's what I'm talking about. Agile. That's right. Not just in the technology side, but agile in life. We make moves. Industrious. Industriousness. I love it. And agile. And I see that. So keep it going in the chat. I love it. Determined, confident, innovators. That is right. Change. That's right. Love these words, guys. We're talking about us, unity, determined. I love it. All right, guys, keep it going in the chat, and I appreciate it. So let me walk through tonight's agenda: solvers, dexterity, unity. So as you can see, if you take a look over here right now, you can see that tonight we have both a fireside chat and a leadership panel. We're going to really dive deep into the Black experience on the path to leadership. So I am going to be talking all night long. Well, no, I'm just going to be moderating all night long. So you're not going to just get a peek of my face. I'm going to be hanging out with you all night. So I hope you guys are okay with that. All right. And of course, more tunes on the end. And so make sure you guys stick around, and of course, invite a friend because it's going to be a powerful conversation. And here's how you invite a friend. You send them to obsidy.com. And also you can find us on social media. We are Obsidy by BPTN. So wherever you're at, you can find us. And also make sure you follow us, tag us, tweet us, and use the hashtag Obsidy by BPTN. You see, we keep it so simple. And of course, you can always check out obsidy.com to make sure you are posting there as well. So I'm curious. I want to know how many of you guys are joining us for the very first time tonight. If you are a first timer, I want you to put a number 1 in the chat for first time. So drop it in the chat. And of course, my OGs, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. Drop your OG in the chat right now. And I'm even dropping in the chat because I'm an OG because I show up like that. That's right. There's my OG, Chris. I love it. So OG, I love it. Embo, that's awesome. Okay, I see Paula, you're brand new. Maury's brand new. All right, Stacy, you're brand new. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to let you guys know, as you guys are showing up in the chat, you can see that's where some of the action is happening. But I want to make sure you continue to chat it up because that's where the networking happens as well. That's where you can get in touch with people before, during, and after the chat. Do not lose the opportunity to meet great people and extend the relationship beyond this event. So as you can see, or you may not even notice, at the very top, besides where it says community chat box, you will see submit your questions. So it's a question tab. And if you've got questions going on especially for our panel later on tonight, definitely drop your questions in there as opposed to the chat, just to make sure that we can separate them so I can see them. And if you didn't know, now you know, because masterclass recordings are available for all of our masterclasses at the end of the session. So you'll be able to check them out later. And of course, while you're here, we want you to get comfortable. So you can customize your screen. You can make your video bigger. You can make it smaller. You can play around with little icons at the bottom. And you can move things around. You can make your chat really, really big if you need it. But here's the thing, you can't break the interwebs here. If you don't like what you've done, there's a little circular arrow, and that is a restore, set back to default settings like you never touched it. So feel free to play around and make it your own. And of course, you see the speaker bios and all the slides being used today and member contacts and so much more. So definitely play around and make it your own as well. For all you brand new folks, we have every single week in each one of our master classes, we have talent acquisition reps from our sponsors. So tonight we have talent acquisition reps from PwC Canada. And so you see their names, we see Salid and we see Shanice. Those are the people that you want to build relationships with. Just trust me on that. They have access to opportunities and jobs and so much more, and they can really get your questions answered as far as growing your careers over at PwC Canada, because that is an awesome place to be. So make sure you engage with them and connect with them throughout the masterclass and over on Obsidy.com. And I want to make sure that you guys are continuing to network. This is your opportunity to connect and take advantage of the opportunities that come to you directly from BPTN and nowhere else. So we are here for you. All right, it's time to get ready for tonight's discussion. And before we dive into that discussion, you know me, I love me some trivia. So I want to test your knowledge. On the screen, you're going to see a question with 4 options. And let's see if you can pick the right one. So what percentage of senior executives are held by Black professionals in the US? Is it 8.1%? Is it 5.7%? Is it 3.3%? Or 1.4%? What's the answer? What do you guys think it is? I see that no one thinks it's 8.1%, and I'll cheat and say yes, you're correct. No, we're not there yet. But let's see what you guys get. If you guys get the right answer, because this one definitely is a right answer, wrong answer thing. But I'll let you know what's up once we close the poll. All right, so most of you thought 1.4%. Thank God it's a little bit better than that. We're not as high as 5.7%, but the answer is 3.3%. So it proves with 3.3% of Black professionals in senior executive positions, that is exactly why organizations like BPTN are here today, because we want to see that number raise up. All right, so good job to everybody who did guess correctly, and let's keep on networking to make that number increase as well. All right, so I'm sure you guys are ready for the main event, and we have an amazing panel of experts who are going to come on later and share their unique experiences on advancing leadership. But first, I'd like to start with our fireside chat. And I know it's going to be loaded with gems, so make sure you guys have something to take notes with. All right, so first up, I'm going to invite Kalichi Inyena to the stage. Kalichi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Cher?
I am fantastic now that you're here. I'm going to let everybody know a little bit more about you. You are a partner in PwC's Risk Assurance Services practices, and you have over 15 years of experience across 3 continents, and you're providing internal controls, risk management, and audit services to a variety of public and private financial services clients in Canada and the UK, including retail, retail and investment banks, investment managers, broker dealers, asset backed lenders, insurance companies, capital markets, entities, as well as the central bank. So, my goodness, you are good at what you do and you know your stuff. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Perfect. All right. So, next up, I've got Isa Guindo. Isa, how are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself, Cher?
I am fantastic. Let me know, let me let everybody else know how fantastic you are, right? Because this is already an awesome panel. So you lead PwC's data analytic nucleus, an agile central governing body responsible for standardizing the firm's data analytics life cycle and unlocking the value of data driven insights. You also hold a wealth of experience leading analytics and digital transformation journeys with a deep knowledge of in data analytics, AI, cloud transformation, business strategy, technical delivery, and stakeholder management. Again, just bringing all this experience to us tonight. Welcome. We appreciate having you here too, Isa.
Thanks, Cher. Glad to be here with two powerful Black women.
Well, we appreciate that. I'll tell you what. All right. So, I mentioned Mother's Day off the top, and I know it for I don't want to assume for everybody it's the most comfortable time of year, but we do want to recognize at the same time of year that this is something that we do want to recognize the mothers out there. And I'm curious, what do you do every year to celebrate Mother's Day? Do you have any exciting traditions or do you have a Mother's Day routine? So, Kalichi, I'm going to start with you first. What's your Mother's Day lowdown? Give us the lowdown.
Thanks, Sher. I'm not a mom yet, but I do have a large family, lots of strong women in there. We also live across, I think, 4 different time zones. So generally, the pings start very early for me in the morning with people wishing each other a great Mother's Day. And typically, we like to get on a family video call so that we can just recognize everything that's gone on in the past year and what it means to be a mom.
I love it. I love it. Issa, what about you?
Well, first, I want to wish a happy early Mother's Day to all the mothers watching this. Please know that we see you, we honor you, and we thank you for all the great work that you do. Uh, Really, as a tradition, I make my rounds to message as many mothers as I can to wish them a happy Mother's Day and to just get caught up.
I love that. We don't even recognize if you think about 20 years ago, trying to message all the moms that was a lot harder than it is today. But the fact that you still get to keep it personal, keep it active. I know for me, I've got two boys. They're a lot older, so they're like university age guys. And the one thing I do get is French toast and bacon. That's my thing. That's what I want, and that's it. And strawberries. Don't forget the strawberries. So that's my thing. The one thing that I do also want to shout out is all those warrior aunties out there that have been auntie mamas. And if it wasn't for them, my kids probably wouldn't be alive. So shout out to all the special auntie moms out there. We love you too. All right. So I want to now jump into. So I read your incredible bios. Both of you bring a lot of experience, and you're right now at PwC, and you bring a lot of experience to the table. And the interesting thing is, Isa, your experience is local to, well, not local, it's across Canada, where Kalichi, you bring your experience from 3 continents here. So each of you guys have this different path to leadership. But before we jump into that, I'd love to know in 3 moves or less. So this is kind of a challenging question. How did you get to where you are today? 3 moves. That's it. Who wants to go first?
Kalichi,
I
you
can
can do
I
the
can go
honors.
first. Well, I say I'll try and do it in 3 moves. So, one, I left the world of pharmacology and moved to PwC to become an auditor. And then I took the opportunity with a secondment to move from Nigeria to the UK to work and get different experiences. And from there, I took the opportunity to go through another secondment to Canada. And one of the key things I learned is where you start does not dictate where you end up. And being able to take risks and challenge yourself in different ways. And like for me personally, that has led me to grow as a person and as a professional.
Love it. I love it. I love where you start is not going to be, doesn't mean that's where you're going to be. So that is awesome. So Issa, tell me 3 moves or less. That's all you got. Let's go.
So the first move was aligning my work to my interest and passions. So in my case, I moved from one of the big fours to an analytics company almost 15 years ago, which changed the trajectory of my career. The next move is really getting an understanding of issues that matter to executive leaders. And that's anything around recognizing that there's a changing landscape in technology. There are changes now in what effective leadership means, and even changing expectations from customers. And the third move was really raising my hand. Whenever an opportunity to explore an issue that matters or a problem needs to be solved, I raised my hand. And in those early days, no one's an expert. So if anyone can do it, why not me?
Exactly. If anybody, let everybody, for anybody who didn't hear that in the back, if anybody can do that, why not me? I think we need to like look in the mirror and say that to ourselves all the time. So, Issa, I'm going to start with you. How did your unique experiences lead you to these leadership roles? Because we see that you've already started embedding in some of the advice right from the get-go, right from the jump. So your unique experiences, and then also the tips and tricks that led you down your path of success. So talk to me a little bit more about your experience to this leadership role.
So I'll first situate myself. I'm a multilingual first generation Black man of African and Caribbean descent. And so I've had to maneuver myriad environments given this intersection. And so it means that I appreciated that when working in Quebec, speaking in French to a francophone audience, even if they know how to speak English, really matters. It also meant that if I was in Regina, Saskatchewan, it was important to be able to speak about their Canadian football team, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and taking a game and put on that watermelon helmet, which is a classic local tradition. And so being able to navigate those different environments has been absolutely critical. Taking an interest in other people and other places matters, because there's nothing more powerful than making a human connection. And the last thing is really being authentic, be it that it's been during internal career discussions, or when I've moved externally. I found that this authenticity was always helpful. I can think of an interview that I had where I mentioned to an interviewer that about a book that I had read of a famous behavioral economist, and he followed up by saying that they had that person as a keynote speaker probably about a month before my interview, and so that allowed us to connect in a meaningful way.
I love that. You're like reading the room, right? You're leveraging emotional intelligence strategies, and you're really making that deeper connection. And that has proved to be most powerful because you're able to be nimble and move across different aspects and different areas of Canada, and still assimilate into the culture and leverage the different things by, again, reading the room and being highly emotionally intelligent. I love those strategies. So everybody's, hope you guys are writing that stuff down. And so Kalichi, tell me a little bit about you and your unique experiences that led you to your leadership roles.
Well, when I think about my experiences, the one thing that really bubbles up to the top is, the diversity of thought that I've managed to garner out of all those experiences, because, living and working in Nigeria is so different, living and working in the UK and in Canada. And, I think being able, wherever you are, to bring yourself to the table, to bring a different spin on discussions or ideas, and also being able to learn to curate that and encourage others to do the same, give them the open space to be different. is something that, brings what I think are the best ideas, the best solutions to the table. And when you're able to do that with a team, I think that, that does get recognized. And, in this world, working as a team is one of the most important things you can do. So being able to bring that team together, bring them to the best solutions, it is something I think has been very helpful in my experiences. And
I
when you
love that.
yeah. So when you talk about, tips, right? I always think about playing to your passions. It's something that I feel quite strongly about. Way back in PwC, we learned about something called the sweet spot, and that's where what you love to do aligns so and connects so well with what your clients need and what helps grow the firm. And so my passion is people, and being able. I love interconnecting with people. I love collaborating with them, and so it opened me up to new opportunities, and I was willing to take on those new opportunities because I wanted to meet new people, and I wanted to get out there and find out what makes them tick and find out what value means to them. And so, I use that passion to sort of to set my path at work, and it helped me set up a strategy as to how to use it to move forward in my career. And I think that's helped me.
I love that. Let your passion take the driver's seat and be very strategic about how you're making moves, because even when it's hard, the passion can get you over those speed bumps. So I love that. Isa, I want to talk to you a little bit about your journey as a Black professional in Canada. And specifically, you touched on it a little bit in your journey, because you talked about when you were in Quebec, for example, speaking French was very important, and then going out west, leveraging checking out the culture of Western Canada and being able to assimilate. How important was that for you in your rise to the top?
That was critical to my evolution, because it meant that I could I could connect with different audiences and meet them where they were, and as a result, build trust in our relationship. And that trust was fundamental in order to be able to move forward with any opportunity.
Hmm. Meet them where they are and build the trust. That is so powerful and so important. And something that's often overlooked is that we don't do that. We kind of just go with our own agendas without reading the room, like we talked about earlier, and just meeting people where they're at, so that you can build those relationships and those connections, which is the mark of a great leader. I love that. Kalicha, you immigrated to Canada. How do you think your experiences with different work cultures helped you in your journey, in your leadership role?
Yeah, there have been some funny situations, sure, in my career. I mean, there are things that are completely normal when you're working in the Nigerian environment, and they're strange, or they may even create a barrier in some cases. And I'll give an example. And I may be dating myself here, so bear with me. Way back when, it would have been considered even rude to refer to someone more senior than you are by their first name,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Move over to the UK or Canada, if you said Mr. Smith and you were working with that person, it would be odd. I mean, it might even create a relationship barrier. And so,
Mm.
understanding some of those differences, I think helped me to create a self-awareness of my impact, right? And it helped me to continually assess that level of impact as I go through different situations, and help me to adapt better to them. And it also helped me to temper my reactions to other people who were different, because I didn't have to immediately think, oh my goodness, what are they saying to me? I could be open and actually take learnings from those interactions. So I think it's been really positive.
I love that. It's made you become that nimble person that you're again, I think there's this theme, this underlying theme, maybe I'm just grasping at straws here, but it's literally reading the room and taking a look at the
Mhm.
different opportunities and being able to be empathetic about what's happening and
Yes.
what's going on and making choices, social choices based off of that and recognizing the different cultures. What works here doesn't necessarily work in another province or in another country. So being able to be nimble, agile, and adapt. And I remember
Right.
our word earlier, we saw people say agile, and that's what we are, right? So
Yeah.
that's phenomenal. And, in addition to moving, whether it's across country to work or across the world to work, there's also a lot of resilience that needs to be built. What were some of the obstacles that you faced, or what was a standout obstacle that you faced, and how did you overcome it? So, Isa, let me start with you first. Like, what was something that you had, was an obstacle, and you needed to get through it?
Now, it was made apparent to me pretty early in my career that working in downtown Toronto, I was one of the very few, if not only, black men in a suit in the path. Uh, and so, given that it was brought to my attention by a senior executive who I was working with, I had to make sure that I continued to show and prove my value,
Mm,
because it was clear to me that he saw me as different than everyone else there. Now, my approach whenever I think of obstacles is or whenever challenges present themselves, is I do my best to think about how to solve or how to overcome these different barriers. And every so often, I'm reminded of a quote which is attributed to a range of people, including the late Desmond Tutu, which is that there's only one way to eat an elephant, and it's a bite at a time. So,
mm.
so I tend to remind myself of that, and I do lean heavily on my friends and my network as they provide absolute invaluable guidance and support.
Mm. Definitely something that I know is not foreign to a lot of our members here, as far as having those awkward conversations and those and then with some of our white counterparts who are not sensitive in that sense, or even have the perspective as far as what's okay and what's not okay to say. So that's something that we're all dealing with, and I love your story around that. So Kalichi, what about you? How have you had to develop this resilience as you've traveled across three continents? What have you experienced in your experience?
Right. I'll start this pretty much the same way started. Like, I moved from a country where all the people I looked up to, all my leaders, they looked like me. They were all black.
Mm,
I moved over to a space where, especially in the professional space, I was virtually the only black person
mm,
there, and I was so aware of my blackness and of my differentness. And so, in addition to navigating new spaces, new ways of doing things, I was also navigating a new understanding of myself.
right.
Initially, to be perfectly honest, I was worried. I was worried about being seen as less than, and that made me second guess a lot of things. Was I saying the right thing? Was I making the right move? Should I make this move? And it was consuming a lot of mental energy, right? At,
Mm,
at a point, I was really exhausted, and I knew I couldn't keep doing it. And so I started practicing focusing on the things that I could control. And that is being myself, focusing on my development, focusing on, my growth and the quality of my work, and basically being more me, because that's where I felt most comfortable. And that's how I found resilience. So
mm,
it was a lot of practice. And so now when I see a challenge, or I face something new that I potentially haven't done before, I can say confidently to myself, like, you can do this. You've done it before, right? You've done something new before. You did, it didn't kill you. In fact, you probably did great. And guess what? If you don't get it right, you gave it a good try.
Mm. I love it. And everybody is really feeling that in the chat, Kaliche, especially around that, coming from a country where, you get to see people who look like you in leadership positions, and that's what you're used to. And then to walk into a space when you are the first or only, and navigating through that challenge, and then being yourself, and then challenging your own authenticity. So I'd like to start with you for our final question. You guys both dropped some incredible gems, which I know everybody's appreciating. But is there one final gem or something that you want to reiterate and make sure that they take home and into their leadership journeys as they move forward? Is there one gem? Cleechia, I'll go to you first.
Well, the one thing I believe truly in my heart is you need to bring yourself to the table. And when I say yourself, I mean all of you, because there is nothing more unique, more valuable to the world as you, as yourself.
Love it. Isa, I'm sorry that's a really hard one to top, but I know you can bring it. So go ahead.
So it's a few things. One, I'd say be current, look for emerging trends, and think through the potential implications. Be curious, really remain eager to learn and look for opportunities to stretch yourself. And lastly, just recognize that we're all on our own unique journeys, and celebrate that.
Love it. Kaliche, Isa, thank you guys so much for dropping the gems and to start the night off just right. We appreciate you. And definitely shout them out in the chat, everybody. Thank you guys so much again for being part of this conversation. So keep the conversation going in the chat. And thank you again for both of you. We just really appreciate the gems you guys dropped today.
Thanks.
All right. So next up, we are moving on to the leadership panel of our session. And I also, like I said before, you guys are going to see me all night long. Isn't that crazy? So I'm going to have the privilege of moderating this panel as well. So I'm looking forward to having yet another awesome conversation. So let me introduce our panelists for tonight. First up, I have Sarah Nurse. Sarah, how are you?
Hi, everyone. Good. Thank you, Cher.
All right, Sarah, let me let everybody know a little bit about you. You are the Director of Strategic Enablement at Rogers for Business. You are an experienced people leader who is comfortable working with all levels within an organization, and you have experience building, managing, motivating large, cross-functional, and diverse stakeholder teams. You're also versatile with a high tolerance for ambiguity, sorry, and you are able to apply your existing knowledge, skills, and experiences in just about any new context that comes your way. So we know that the questions coming your way tonight, you're going to be able to apply that knowledge, experience, and skills to them as well. So thank you for joining us, Sarah.
Thanks.
All right. So next up, I have Jerome Perez. How are you, Jerome?
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, we're glad to have you. So let me let everybody know a little bit about you. You are a director at PwC Canada, where you lead the Workday Finance team, and you are a versatile professional with over 16 years of experience consulting. And prior to joining the Workday practice, you were part of the finance transformation practice, which gives you a solid understanding of both the finance, business processes, and technology implementation imperatives. So welcome, Jerome. We can't wait to learn from you today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right. Next up, I have Obufantu Eyenolowa. I almost got it. I practiced so many times. Welcome, Obufantu.
I'm glad to be here, sure.
Well, let me let everybody know how amazing you are. You are an associate director for business architecture and strategy with RBC Investor and Treasury Services. You're working collaboratively with subject matter experts to solve high impact strategic problems with ITS clients operations. And you currently are serving on the Aspire Black Talent Advisory Board member for Toronto's Finance International, TFI. Well, Obafantu, welcome. We are glad to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm excited.
All right. Well, next up, I have Irewole Okande. Oh, did I get that one? Akonde. Yeah?
Yes, you did.
Almost?
Yes, you did.
Oh,
Yeah, you
working.
did right.
All right. I need to take a trip abroad. That's what I need to do. So let everybody know about you, Irewole. You are an engineer and an entrepreneur. You are the co-founder and CTO at City Health Tech. It's a public health tech startup that aims to build the future of disease prevention technology by changing unhealthy habits and behaviors by using education, behavioral science, and connected devices. Their first product, so your first product, Opal, is geared towards improving hand washing. So welcome, Irewole.
Thank you so much.
All right. So listening to the bios alone, you know that this is going to be an awesome conversation. And we heard from the fireside chat speakers a little earlier on today or this evening, and we want to hear from you as well. What do you guys do to celebrate Mother's Day? And do you have any exciting traditions or a Mother's Day routine? Who'd like to go first? Well, you know what? I'm going to ask Sarah. Ladies first. So Sarah, tell me, what do you do for Mother's Day?
Oh, we keep it simple. We are about the group chats across the family as well. For my mom, it's get the 2 sets of flowers because my father will always forget, right? So we need to make sure that he's covered, right? Happy wife, happy life. And then for me and my little son, he is all about, this is for you. Like, you're going to put your foot up. I'm only going to ask you for food twice today instead of 5 times today. So
look at that. Look at that, taking one for the team.
Right.
Let me go next with Jerome. What do you do for Mother's Day? How do you celebrate it?
It's pretty simple, right? Every year I try to order a bouquet of flowers for my mother in Guadeloupe. Mm-hmm. And then also we celebrate at home. So as I have 4 kids, 2 girls and 2 boys, so they give their gift to their mother, and I give mine as well. And then we try to cook a good meal that day,
okay,
and have a good drink.
Okay, I like it already. I'm seeing food, fun, family. That's the way it should be. Irewole, what about you? What do you do?
So my mom is back home in Nigeria, so I don't get to see her often. But we celebrate like 70 different Mother's Days, if I'm being honest. So every single time is just to get on the phone with my mom and continuously remind her that she's like special. So she has 5 kids. We all love her a lot, so she gets a lot of love. I just feel bad for my dad because I don't even know when Father's Day is. So
poor dads out there, just trust me, we got love for you guys too, definitely. So don't worry, we're gonna celebrate you. So Obafantu, what about you? What do you do?
So similar to Rewole as well. I can definitely relate to that. My mother is in Nigeria. So one of the things I make sure I do is make sure we carve out time to spend with her virtually, specifically. So she appreciates that. And then one thing she definitely demands is let her know how much we love her. So I have a list of things I make sure I send on Mother's Day, just letting her know how awesome I think she is.
Oh, I love it. So check in the boxes. Irewole, I'm going to start with you since you already checked the boxes with the Mother's Day routine. I would like to have everybody get to know you by telling, and everybody on the panel, by the way, you all are going to be sharing your career journeys, just like the other panel, in 3 moves or less. Can you do it? That's the question. Let's go.
Okay, let's do it. So I moved from Nigeria to the United States in Chicago in about 10 years ago. I did that to pursue my degree in engineering management and electronics engineering. After I was done with my degree, I sort of went into industry as an electronics engineer, where I spent about 3-4 years building devices for like a wide range of different customers around the world, like so really from industrial to consumer electronics. So that's the second part of my career. And after doing that for several years, I sort of took a gamble on myself, and it's like, can I actually build something from scratch that solves a problem that I'm very passionate about? So that's really how I ended up being the co-founder and CDO at CDL Tech, and it's probably been one of the best journeys I've gone on in my life.
I love it, Ariel.
Then
That
three.
is awesome. 3. You did it. 1, 2, 3. I love it. Okay. Obafantu, can you top that in 3 or less?
Let's see. Okay, so I moved from Nigeria as well to pursue a master's program because I was looking to pivot from the career I was in previously, which was risk management. So I did a master's in innovation and entrepreneurship with a goal to learn how to innovate within a medium to large organization. So with that, my second move was landing an internship at where I work now, actually, RBC, and that was 6 years ago now, 6 years ago. So I did a master's program in a program called RBC Amplify. So think of it as a 4 month long arc hackathon. And the goal really was to solve a real business problem, use that to essentially get exposure into the bank, learn about business problems and how to solve for them. And after my internship, so my third move was landing my very first full time job in strategic initiatives. And ever since then, I've been in similar kind of roles or leveled up through roles related to strategy or right now business architecture. So 3 moves.
All right. Slaying in your lane. I love it. Okay, Sarah, what about you? Tell me about you. 3 moves or less.
Well, I took my very generic math degree and went to pursue a role in data and analytics that fell through 2 weeks into the job. So they moved me from data to supporting customer and employee engagement programs, which was quite interesting with my math, not English or written or proficient in the written language, if you will, with my math degree. But that took me to really focusing on customer processes and supporting customer facing groups in a variety of capacities across the company. And after many years of doing that, I'm in another chair where we're leading transformation, which is all about requirements of people who are with customers, what are customers' needs, and leading that digital transformation for the organization, for the business unit. So.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at the experience, and everybody's been able to lay it down in 3 or less. Jerome, you are last but not least. Can you do it in 3 or less?
I will try to do that. So I think my first move was to join PwC 10 years ago. I actually tried 3 times before I was able to make it. So the first time was when I tried to find an internship. The second time was when I was new grad, and then the third time 2 years after my first professional experience. But I finally made it after 7 years. So that really changed my career and gave me opportunity to grow. And I joined the management consulting competency at that time. So it was all about patience and then perseverance. My second move was when I moved to Canada. So that's when I discovered this new culture and new country. So new challenges for me, new skills, and then also I was able to bring my personal experience into this. My third move was when I went back to technology 5 years ago, because I went out from my comfort zone. I was able to start working in a new competency where we've built a new team, and that also gave me the opportunity to have a more leadership role at PwC. So that's it.
So wouldn't it be awesome if you could just chat with cool PwC talent acquisition folks 10, 15 years ago when you were looking to get into PwC? And guess what, guys? We have them in the chat right now with links to boot, so you guys can get connected, and maybe you can get in 2 or less or even 1, because we've got them right there in the chat. So make sure you guys are connecting as we move along in the conversation tonight. tonight, because this is where it's at. It's all about the chat. All right. So, interestingly enough, as we talk about our Black experience, and we all can share stories about how we were raised, and for the most part, I would say this has been across the board with the Black experience, is that most of us were taught to keep our heads down, do your work, don't make mistakes, keep quiet. Just do your work, right? And get it done. And you will be recognized because you work hard. And while this cultural norm was intended to protect us, it goes against what is required to climb up the corporate ladder into senior roles. I'm curious, what sort of mental programming or reprogramming did you have to do in order to get ahead into the roles that you're in now? So who would like to start this conversation off?
I mean, I can start. Oh,
okay, Sarah, go ahead.
I'll say I can start because I think that I've had to do all of that reprogramming, right? As my parents are first generation immigrants, I guess so am I, from the Caribbean by way of the UK. And that about, not making mistakes, don't make waves, you stay in the background, protect your stuff, protect your space so that you can be successful and you can attain things that, perhaps my parents were not able to, right? And that drove a lot of fear, right? And a lot of fear of failure, a lot of fear of, speaking up at a table and sitting at a table. And when you think about, as we move across, the various levels of leadership, you're there for a reason. And people want to hear your voice. They need to hear what you have to contribute. And that reprogramming to, when everybody tells you about what being visible means, but it's about how you occupy space in a room where you feel that you're not necessarily meant for, you believe that you're not meant for, and how you show up, how you share your voice at those tables as well, is what really, for me, is something that I've had to learn to overcome and do, and just do it, right? Take the risk and do it, and know that there's nothing catastrophic, in failing.
I love that, because that's not something that we were necessarily given permission to do, is to fail. And that is so important. So what about the rest of you guys? Do you have any insight or anything you want to share around the reprogramming you had to do from what you learned at home to when you got into the business world and things change in order for you guys to get to leaders?
I can speak a little bit towards that. So personally, I grew up in a very home where my dad was very humble, and he always used to say cover your mouth, don't talk about things unless it seems like it's pride or you're prideful, and people are not going to want to support you on your journey. And one of the hardest things for me to sort of get out of is, like, as an entrepreneur, one of the things you have to do is that you have to constantly sell yourself. You have to sell your product. You have to sell every single thing you're doing. And I struggled for a very long time because I'm thinking, am I being a different kind of person than I'm meant to be? Am I speaking the wrong way? Am I going to cause bad things to happen to me once I put myself out there into the world, just because of all of the programming that I've got from when I was a kid, constantly telling me all the things I should or should not do? And I think for me to really overcome that was getting comfortable knowing that your parents are wrong, right? It's okay for them to be wrong, because it's very hard to really
hear it in the back. Your parents are wrong, and it's okay. Sorry, go continue. I just had to underscore that, underline it, highlight it, keep it going.
Yeah. So once you get to that, point where you know that your parents are human, and some decisions they made due to some sort of trauma, you're able to then overcome that and realize that your story is different. These places you're in is different. And then you can sort of make the most out of your opportunities. Because if you don't do that and you get stuck in that mindset, you're going to find yourself fighting a battle you shouldn't be fighting, rather than, really facing the real challenges that you have.
Oof. That is some good stuff right there. Anyone else have anything to share in that sense?
Yeah, I can add in that as well. I remember my very first full time role. When I was putting in the work, doing hard work, putting my head down, getting the job done, and not think of myself as better than anyone else, but I would see people that I knew I was I knew I was working a little bit harder than leveling up, right? And then I had to take a step back to understand what was happening. And then I took a step back to observe, and I saw that they were building strong connections, they were building solid connections, they were putting themselves out there. And, their face was out there, and that was really important. And that wasn't something I was doing because I just thought, my work should be enough to speak for me, right? And then I had to learn to get out of my comfort zone. I had to say yes to those coffee runs that I wasn't necessarily initially a fan of. They, hey, do you want to go grab coffee? And I'm like, no, but I had to learn to like, okay, actually say yes to that. Build connection with your colleagues, volunteer at ERGs. There are a lot of employee resource groups that you can be a part of. I learned to just essentially also say my wins, like speak to my wins. Like that was super important. That was a really crucial part for me. And that was all of those being able to put in the work still because the hard work needs to continue, but making sure that you're networking, building solid connections, and at the same time sharing your wins were such a shift that was important for me to undertake.
The amount of times I heard you don't make friends at work. You don't come to work to make friends. And it's like, you know what? How important is that for networking? I absolutely appreciate that. Jerome, you bring us on home with this. What was it like for you? What did you have to reprogram?
I actually kept my head down in the beginning too, right? And then I worked really hard and I tried to stay quiet, right? But I did mistake because I went out of my comfort zone, as many other people, right? So it took me time to learn to navigate through political context, for instance, and then
Mm,
I think it took me time to understand different cultures and also to understand what was important to make a difference. That was really key, right? And you know what? I have not stayed quiet because I could not.
Mm,
So you don't have to be quiet. So it was one of my first step in my work programming, and I think uh, I also started to give myself permission to be successful, even if successful people often didn't look like me. Right? My parents told me to stay quiet, told me to stay quiet and not creating trouble, but I saw them being so expressive and frank because that's how they are. And you know, like how they are, like Caribbean people sometimes when they are frank and then expressive. So I started to be myself without thinking about other people and without thinking about what they told me. And I started to build my own path, my own my own way without trying to meet all common standards.
mm. I love that. And I want to stick with you for a second, Jerome, just as far as, you've immigrated from different countries. And the interesting thing with you is like there's different work cultures and your experiences that you were able to adopt and adapt throughout that. And it's specifically, you've spoken French in three different French places, four different French places. Talk to me a little bit about your experiences between the different work cultures and how they helped you in the journey of your role. I mean, especially with the French language being so different from place to place to place.
Oh, definitely. So, I mean, you know what? It's definitely an advantage, right? To have those different experiences. So, but it comes with challenge first because of different cultures to adapt, language to understand. So, when I moved from Guadeloupe to France, one of the first challenge I had was to understand people talking. I remember
Hmm.
my first at university, my first course, and I was not able to catch half of the words because of the accent, and they were speaking French, but I was not exactly the same French. So that was a challenge. And then I remember that was the same challenge when I moved from France to Canada, because in Quebec we have some differences, right? The accent and so on. So that was a kind of a challenge for me too. But you know what? I think I've learned a lot from this, from different culture, different codes, and then at some point you learn to adapt to different environments and navigate through different cultures. So I would say engaging with people, removing all barriers in your mindset really help to progress in your career without thinking about different cultures, without thinking about what people could think about your accent, what people could think
mm,
about you in general. So that's really helped. That's how it really helped me.
Hmm. And for those of you who have also moved and immigrated from your country of origin to North America, what's one thing you wish you knew before moving to where you are right now? If there's like a piece of advice that you could give to yourself before you moved, does anyone have anything that they want to share?
So okay, maybe I'll get started on this one. I think for me, when I first moved here, from a place of challenge was working back home, and I'll preface this with saying that this is like 2011, 2012 of working in Nigeria at the time. It felt like your boss had the final authority, right? Senior management is almost seen as God, so to speak, right? So it's like,
Mm,
give me the direction, I'm ready to run with it, deliver on it, and get it done, right? And so when I moved here, I was very well with taking there. I did very well with executing. You tell me what needs to be done, I'm going to run with it. I'm not going to challenge it. I'm not going to argue. Not going to give you my point of view. So I wasn't providing my direction or my thought leadership there. And
mm,
that the first culture shock I definitely got to see was my boss saying, "Oh, you don't have to agree with me," and I'm like, "Wait, really? Like, okay then, like if I don't have to agree with you, here's what I actually think, right?" And it was such a it helped a lot with leveling up, being able to make sure you share your thoughts, being able to provide thought leadership to engagement, project, initiative, whatever the case may be, and not just run with it, but be able to be that leader from a thinking perspective was huge. So I really needed to unlearn the fact that I just needed to deliver on initiatives, but also make sure that I'm providing my own value from how I see things and what I think the direction should be, and not necessarily just agreeing. So that would be my point of view.
mm. That's some good advice. I bet you wish you heard before you left. So I love that. Um, who else want anybody else want to add into this conversation in this topic
Hi.
specifically? Irawole, I know that you run companies in Nigeria, you work in the US. What did you wish you knew?
Uh, so mine is a little bit more mundane. I think the one
Okay.
thing I wish I knew before I moved was like what the weather, how that whole weather thing works. Because when I was in Nigeria, it's like eternal summer, right? Like it's summer in January, it's summer in December, it's everything is the same. And I moved from Nigeria to Chicago in January. And I don't know what if you know what that looks like, but it was like a horrifying experience. So I had to learn very quickly that like you have to walk in the code, and I didn't know how that worked. I didn't know why people left the house at all. So that was like something that was very
Good on
mundane.
you.
I think I wish I knew before I left. I feel like, everyone tells you the things about opportunities and everything, and no one ever just remembers to mention, like, yeah, but the weather though, like, think about it. So no one
The
ever
weather
says that.
though.
That's something interesting. But on a more professional side, the one thing I learned is that, or the one thing I wish I knew is just like, um, opportunity looks very different depending on where you are, right? I think when I was back home in Nigeria, I had a lot of support around, like, getting through doors that I didn't even know were there, or like, meeting people very easily. And then when you move to a completely new place, you feel very, very small, right?
Mm,
So the whole world you knew has shrunk. You discover new things about yourself, right? So I went from being Wale, that was, Igbo and Yoruba, to being black in America. And I'm like, I had no idea what that meant, right? So it was a
mm,
little bit of a learning curve per se, right? Especially since I moved when I was like relatively younger. So I wasn't as exposed to certain things. So something I wish I knew was just like having a better understanding about how, like, different diverse groups interacted with each other, because then I had to start learning things that I didn't really know, right? Like coming from a predominantly black country, and then being
mm,
told consistently I was black and really not knowing what that meant. So it
Mm.
was a
mm.
constant like, well, am I black? Well, what exactly am I? So that was an interesting experience to sort of navigate when I was becoming, like, a professional within North America.
Okay, I love it. I want to jump into a question from the community questions, and this is around, the if you are introverted. So, what career opportunities are for introverted strategist type. So Christine says she is an HR professional having trouble getting her first mid-level role. So she's moving up in the spaces, and she's introverted and she's a bit of a strategist. So is there anyone here who can identify with that introverted side, and what advice would you give this introvert in order to move up?
Well, I'd say I definitely, like, that resonates with me because it's very much who I am naturally as well, right? And I think that sometimes it's a barrier that we create for ourselves that doesn't necessarily exist. When you're trying to pursue an opportunity, like, we all have to figure out ways to get comfortable with certain things that don't come naturally to us, because we all are going to have to present, right? If you are a strategist at heart, right, you never know when that thing that you were working on is going to get reviewed or need to talk to at top levels in your organization or across a myriad of audiences as well, right? And I know it's not necessarily advice about the job, right?
Yeah.
But it is advice about the what you need to do to practice, to be comfortable, to take some of the fear out of whether it's speaking or engaging with large bodies of people or different levels in the organization, and not have that be a barrier for you trying to get the job that you want to get.
I appreciate that. And that really will lead me right into the next question. And gentlemen, I'm going to head this one over to you. It's not uncommon for Black tech leaders to be blocked at multiple points in your career because of systemic racism or unintentional bias. Can you describe an instance where it happened to you and where you had to navigate past it?
So I can sort of start this one, and I'll try and make it as quick as possible. Um, One of the weird things I experienced as a black engineer within an industry that was predominantly white, that sort of made me really like reframe the way I really thought about the world, was I went to a conference once, right? And it was about 100,000 people attending this conference in California. And I walk in, and there's like a wide range of people exhibiting different things like electronic displays, system engineering systems. And I was very excited, right? With like a kid in a playground. So I go around the entire exhibition saying hi and talking to different people. But I didn't really like leave my card or like do anything that I thought was like, very obvious for people to remember me. And then I left that day and I came back the next day. And every single time I stopped by a booth, everyone remembered me, right? And I was very confused, like, I didn't even say anything, right? Like, why do they remember me so well? And it turns out I was the only black engineer, right, that attended the conference. So the moment I saw, every single time I stopped at a booth, people had the same reaction. People had the same reaction. And I was just getting like in my head, like, okay, what exactly is going on? Something feels off. It wasn't until later, right? Like, I'm talking to my coworkers and I'm like, I don't know why everyone remembered me. I didn't really talk to anyone. They're like, well, dude, you're the only black person here. And I think the moment that sort of like, dawned on me within my industry, I started thinking every single day I was at work, right? So when I would go on a customer call and I talk to them, right? Maybe my accent doesn't is not as Nigerian as it used to be. So when I go visit them in person, I'd find myself waiting in the lobby because they're trying to check with my company. Oh, like, this dude has been helping us for the last 3 years. We've done like $15 million together. Is he this person? Right. So I'll find myself waiting a little bit longer. I'll find myself like, almost having to prove that I'm the one that designed things, just because I was in an industry where there was very little to no diversity. Right. So that was something that was tough for me to sort of like, get over. And I think the moment I realized it wasn't just enough for me to be where I was, as much as it was important for me to try and create better opportunities or really challenge the status quo on, like, the importance of more people looking like me. Because I know that if that was the situation on a macro scale, I don't ever want to get micro to like the kind of things that I sort of like, had to go through throughout that process. So it was a little bit of a eye-opening experience, but at the same time, like, very important learning experience as I'm building, my own venture, to understand the importance of like, not just being good, but being great, because good enough is the greatest enemy of great. So
Mm. And like what I love about that is the fact that, as a leader, you can take that experience and apply it to those you work with, those you hire, so that you have this level of empathy. That, again, this is the power of the Black experience. As much as that was a negative experience, you're doing what you can to make sure that that experience isn't repeated on your watch. We know it's going to happen, but wherever you can have a hand in that, that is really important. Jerome, what about you? Have you had one of those experiences where it's either systemic racism or unintentional bias, where that has shown its ugly head as you're making your way through your career?
Yeah, definitely. It was not always visible, but I think it happened to me when I was looking for an internship during my university, and especially during my last year at the business school, about 18
Mm,
years ago. I applied for about 100 positions and received just a few answers, right? Most of them
mm,
negative, as you can imagine. So while my colleagues were receiving a lot of answers, they had the choice, and then also in prestigious places, right? So they were so happy, and then they were already talking about their careers and so on. Where myself, I was stuck, right? I was even not sure I would be able to find an internship to have my diploma. So I
mm,
finally found one. Like, it was a pretty basic one. I get my diploma, and I started a more gradual process in terms of career, right? I started to build my network. I was able to access more opportunities, right? But I can tell that each experience I had, I really try to leverage them as much as I can, like really learn as
mm.
much as I can to bring value. So I work really hard for this. So I think that really helped me to build resilience.
Mm, I love that. And then when you look at yourself as a leader now, you see how that is probably also informing how you're looking out for talent and providing a place of opportunity for people to grow, or at least providing a path where they can get connected to somebody at PwC and won't have to try 3 times to get in. I'm kidding. And Obafundu, what about you? Have you had one of those experiences where, there's just that block that comes in the way, and then, clearly you got past it, but what was that like for you?
So maybe it's not very. So I don't think it's specific to tech alone, and it's similar to what Jerome had mentioned. And I'm sure most of the people in the audience can relate to the next few words I'm going to say, which is you don't have Canadian experience. And the
Mm,
very funny thing about that particular terminology, and that this was really back when, initially when I was looking for my first full-time role or internship, that was something I had all the time. But what I also then noticed was I had friends from Sweden and other parts of Europe that they had never heard that before, right? So it became clear that that was just that was a theme, that was some bias, systemic racism that I had to navigate, right? And it had to do with then figuring out a way around that, which involved either finding hackathons that I could do or be a part of, so that that could go on my resume as well, to act as the Canadian experience I'm missing, as well as positioning myself with around people that could essentially speak for me in rooms that I wasn't able to be in at the time, right? So, and what is that's where mentorship is super important, right? Because you want to be able to help the mentors so they can help you by sharing your wins, talking about how unique you are, so that they can speak about your uniqueness and then your wins in these rooms, and help you level up or get in there.
you have just like segued me right into my next question. So, in addition to rocking it out at work, mentors, champions, and executive sponsors have proven to be a career accelerator for most successful Black IT leaders. They provide access, like you were talking about, Obufantu, to their exclusive networks, and they open up doors to new opportunities. That's if the relationship is successful. So, what advice? And again, I'll stick with you because you brought up the conversation for us to lead into that. So,
Okay.
what advice do you have to make sure that those who are on that path within leadership make their mentor or executive sponsor relationship a win-win? Like, how do you make it work for both of you?
So I think from my experience, one of the things I've learned, and even in times where I've had the opportunity to also mentor people, mentors do not like to waste their time. They want to see that the effort that you're putting in is building out fruits, or it's actually working out. They want to see that if I do connect you with someone within my network, please show up. Like they don't want you to reflect bad on themselves, right? And that's like in a situation where a mentor introduces you to someone within their network and that fumbles or you don't show up, it reflects back bad on the mentor. And like I know one of the things that people also struggle with is the term of, or try to see how you can help the mentor. And sometimes it can be challenging, especially when you're new in the career, in the field. That can be a challenge. But one of the things I've found to help is you started to understand things that are of interest to your mentor. It could be in their career, and share articles with them. Hey, I thought you might find this interesting, right? And that also helps in building that relationship for sure. And I also think it's super important to know that the onus to get that relationship going forward lies on the mentee to make sure those meetings are being booked, to make sure there are follow up conversations where needed, and these things in all together help build a stronger relationship of that mentor mentee relationship.
All right, I love that. And Sarah, let me head over to you. What's your take on the whole mentorship, sponsorship? Like, how do you rock that relationship out, or did you get the opportunity to do that?
Yeah, I think I've been lucky that I've had a lot of, you know, champions, and not aware that I've had a lot of champions in room or places and spaces. And part of that is, how you show up, how you build your brand, the level of credibility and respect that you've been able to get as you've been working with, various people. And I think that, when people open the door for you, and you recognize that those are your champions, like you have to be willing to walk through it. You also have to be willing to ask and drive the conversation and be intentional about what you want out of the relationship as well, right?
Mm,
When somebody provides the opportunity, and sometimes we don't step through the door, right? We don't
Mm.
take people up on the offer. So when I have, a vice president or a senior vice president that says, reach out, keep in touch, let's keep connected, I absolutely am doing that. And we are going to
mm.
have those conversations when those doors are open for me as well. But I agree exactly with what you said before. Like, you have to be prepared to do the work, and you have to realize that you are the one that needs to drive that forward and drive that relationship forward as well. Right? It's so
And
important.
yes, no, and I love what's coming out of this part of the conversation, and it really is about the onus is on us when we are given that opportunity, that relationship. We got to drive it, we got to move it, we got to show up. And also, I know in my world, it's also important to give people the language to talk about you, because
Yeah.
oftentimes they're there to open the door, they want to open the door, but you got to make sure, and that's where your personal brand comes into play. That's where how you show up on LinkedIn, maybe even stuff that you're creating, they can leverage that to create better conversations about you as they open the door. But then on the other end, it's our job to make sure we walk through that door and we show up right. So I love the advice that's coming out of here. And Jerome, what about you? Have you ever had to work with men? Have you ever leveraged mentors, champions, or sponsors throughout your career?
Yeah, definitely, and I definitely echo what Sarah said. Right, I think it's really key, right, to accelerate our career. And then one of the best advice I had was to push me to be boldly myself and not
Mm,
trying to adjust too much, right? To be the best of ourselves, right? Not trying to be someone else. And I
mm,
think one of the first surprise I had is how this relationship helped me to build my path, right? And then one advice I would give to people is you don't have to look for people looking like you to be your champion and sponsor. I would say if you can have diversity in your champions and sponsor or people you reach out to have advice, like it will give you a diverse perspective for your development. So go out of
Love
your
it.
comfort zone.
Go out of your comfort zone. People don't need to look like you in order to help you. If they want to help, take advantage of it. And Wally, what about you? What are you thinking to round out this conversation around leveraging these awesome relationships that can really accelerate your path to leadership?
Hmm. I might go a little left field with this one, and I think
Okay.
the reason why I'll do that is because there's two sides of a coin, right? I think especially being an entrepreneur, being in the startup space, you realize that a lot of people that can really mentor you, or the people that have been very successful within the space, typically do not look like you.
Mm,
And as a result, like the path that they might suggest, the way they might think about
Mm.
things are vastly different from the way, like, they experienced it or the way you're going to experience it, right? So you hear, like, being in the startup space, people tell you, like, oh, raise a family and friends round, right? And you'd be like, what exactly does that look like? They're like, yeah, between 250 to 500,000. And I'm thinking, like, if I
no
had
problem.
friends like if I had people that were sitting on like that amount of money, like I wouldn't be doing this, I would just like be chilling. Like I would be coming to you for advice. So I think when you pick your mentors, making sure that you're also painting a realistic world for
Mm,
them so they really understand where you're coming from, or like your particular unique background, especially if you're going down the path with having a very diverse mentor network. I think that's something my team sort of had to learn the very hard way, right? Because we're hearing people saying things and we're trying things that clearly hasn't worked historically for people that look like us in the past, and everyone is telling us the same things and we're trying the same things over and over again. So it's like we're getting on 80 calls a day, or we're doing all these plain old ridiculous things in order to get the same experiences that former founders or more successful people had done, that we had been able to get an in with, but they didn't really understand the difference between knowledge and access as who you are. So I think being
mm,
able to make sure you have mentors, you're also having very honest conversations. And like I think it was earlier, it was mentioned that it's not when they say something you just do it, right? You also like you know disagree, like, hey, like it's kind of hard for me to raise a family and friends thing, the whole like parents had to pay tuition for me to get here thing, right? So I
mm.
think having more of those honest conversations can create a more balanced and more realistic and more helpful mentor-mentee relationship as you sort of go through your career or your journey.
And also, like when you think about that as well, it's like us sharing our Black experience and our path to leadership with them also gives them a new perspective and helps them to better understand or even have more context on how they can help based off of recognizing how different the path was for you as it was for them. And that also feeds into their experience as well. So it is a win-win in that case. But I love how you brought up that other perspective that is not thought about until it's actually experienced. So again, helping people,
Absolutely.
have that advice that they can take forward. So speaking of advice, we are wrapping up and I would love each one of you guys to share one key takeaway. It could be something you already said and you want to like hammer it home, or something that you didn't say that you wish you said that you hope that people take away from tonight. So, Sarah, I'll start with you, and then we'll just make our way through.
I know for me, you know, not saying no to the stretch assignments and pushing for assignments that you wouldn't be normally considered for. And I've found that it's always given me access to, a different level of leadership or the ability for people to see me in a different context than they had before. And so that's the one thing. Push for those additional things, ask for them, because I do think that it helps to propel you and helps
Love
you
it.
grow.
So Obafantu, while we're pushing, what else do we need to do? What else do we need to do?
I think we need to make some noise, make some strategic noise. Making some noise is different from just being a hard worker, right? You want to make some strategic noise. You want to treat every interaction as an opportunity for your brand or to put your brand out there. But yeah, I think that's it. Like, let your face be out there. They turn to the left, turn to the right. They see your face because you're having conversations. You're leading conversations. Yeah, you're gonna have to make some noise. That's it, really.
I love it. And Wole, we're making lots of noise, definitely with our brands and putting our names out there. What else? What's the one thing that you think everybody needs to know tonight?
So one thing I would say about like leadership and really like having an opportunity to lead within the situation we found ourselves is, if you want something and you can't find it within existing systems, it's okay for you to start it. You don't have to be an executive within a large organization. You don't have to rise through the ranks and do all of those things. Start something. Build the thing that you always wanted to do, and that's okay. It's scary, it's risky, but it's absolutely worth it every single time.
Okay, I love it. So if you want something, start something. So Jerome, what are you going to start by leaving with us tonight so that people can take your advice to the next level when they apply it tomorrow at work?
I would say definitely don't stay quiet, right? Same, right? Please speak, right? Share your ideas, show your creativity. The fact that you are different from others could make you stay quiet because you don't want to look stupid sometimes, and
Hmm.
it's one of the worst feeling we could have as a black professional, right? Because of ego, but we have to overcome this quickly. If you want to stand out as a leader and move up the ladder, use your difference as an advantage. You can bring a very different perspective, new ideas because of your different culture, different background. And if you do this, you will notice that people will remember you very well. And gradually you will be involved in different forums where you can contribute to strategic projects. And that's how you build your career and success, right? So, but don't forget to be prepared, right? You only have one chance to make a first impression.
Mm. I love it. Well, guys, this was a fantastic conversation. And you guys just hammered it home with the advice. And I know that there is a lot for everybody to take away from. So thank you guys so much for dropping the knowledge, dropping the gems, and sharing your experience on your path to leadership and how powerful your Black experience has been as you've moved into these leadership roles. So, guys, thank you so much.